Deuce Vaughn is now in there. New set of downs to work with. Prescott will throw it. Left side. It's caught by Lamb. Breaking away. Lamb. Goodbye. Touchdown, Cowboys. Lamb is explosive.
Well, CeeDee Lamb is just like, oh my gosh, finally. We're getting the football to me.
Fantasy Football Happy Hour with Matthew Berry, served by Applebee's.
Happy Friday. Welcome to the Fantasy Football Happy Hour. Connor Rogers, Matthew Berry, Jay Croucher. That sound you heard at the top was CeeDee Lamb and a dominant performance on Thursday Night Football against the Giants.
I call him 8. His friends call him 8.
But
You're not friends with him, so you should call him. Yeah, no. We're buddies. We've talked on the air before. I have visual proof of us being friends, for sure. Anyway, my guy 8, CeeDee Lamb to the rest of you. Monster game here, 7 for 98, touchdown. Also gets 3 rushing attempts. Like, they lined him up in the backfield, which was...
They were getting the ball in his hands no matter what.
That was a little cute. A little too cute.
Sure.
Don't think it
Really
worked once.
But if you have CeeDee Lamb on your fantasy team, you're happy about the ball in his hand many, many times.
Yes.
Yes, and if you're a Cowboys fan, you're like, oh, hey, that's another opportunity where Dak Prescott isn't touching the ball. So it's like,
he looked quite happy about it.
Yeah.
We're going to break down
Dak was fine
everything
last night.
for Thursday Night Football. Of course, it's Friday, so Denny Carter is going to join the show to tell us everything that the mainstream media just simply refuses to. We'll have pickup lines for Matthew, I think one of our more successful betting segments year after year. It's on fire right now. But before we do anything, who drinks free at the happy hour bar today? Oakland fans. You drink free at the happy hour bar because you simply deserve better.
You deserve better. You deserve better for years and years and years and years. Obviously, yesterday, the final game at Oakland Athletic Coliseum, right? By the way, that pennant courtesy of Alexa. Alexa, who is one of the suits here at NBC, but she's not a suit.
Not really.
She's not. I mean, like she's
diehard A's fan.
Diehard
Real
A's fan. Diehard A's fan. You know, very chill as a boss as well. But we feel her pain, and so we celebrate with her and all A's fans worldwide. Like it was kind of a tough scene yesterday.
It was brutal. Yeah. That team's got a lot of history. Back in the days of Mark Mulder and Barry Zito, back when you were loving baseball, Matthew.
Yeah, sure.
It's not that long ago they had a good team as well when they had Matt Olson and these types of the team. Yeah. What has happened to that club it's an absolute travesty. And it's very, very depressing.
It is depressing. A's fans, you guys deserve better, and it's a small token, but yes, if you guys are ever here at the happy hour bar, you drink free on all of us. But hey, Let's get to that triumphant Cowboys.
Yes.
I was walking in and I saw so one of the TVs here had like ESPN on and I think it was probably First Take. Do you feel better or worse as a Cowboys fan this morning?
Worse.
Yeah, I think so.
They felt like evenly matched teams, very evenly matched teams. And as
Giants had a shot at winning that.
Yes, and the Giants, they were screwed. They were screwed by a face mask call on Daniel Bellinger.
Yep.
They were screwed by their own coach, Brian Daboll, not going for it from the 3. And they were screwed by their quarterback a little bit, and we'll get into that.
Yeah, but the beneficiary of that is a Dallas Cowboys win, notably CeeDee Lamb. And we got to hear from Lamb after the game on his bounce-back performance.
I call him 8s.
Finally got one-on-one. I think that was the only one-on-one I got all game, and we exploited it. Shout out Dak for the ball. Shout out the OC for the play call. So I have the utmost, belief in myself and my ability and my talent, and so does the coaches. So again, everything that transpired last game was not personal. It's my will to win, and I love to win. I hate to lose.
7 catches for CeeDee Lamb, 98 yards, a touchdown. Honestly, Matthew, it felt like this performance could have been even bigger, quite frankly.
1,000%. I mean, they got. It's not that tough. You heard Lamb just saying, shout out the OC for the play call. It's not that tough. 30% target share in this game. The previous 2 games, he had a 15% target share. He's your best player. Get him the ball. It's the Josie offense from my days of coaching girls basketball. Get the ball to your best player.
Your historic run.
Yeah, my historic run, my undefeated run coaching 12 and under girls basketball. We had the best player in the league, a girl named Josie. You know what we did on offense? We got Josie the ball. We went undefeated. And so, listen, Cowboys, that's all you got to do. He was your best player, 88. Get him the ball. Look, this is the season high for him in fantasy points. Weeks 1 through 3, he was averaging just 16 points. This is an important game, I thought, not only for CeeDee Lamb, but for the entire Cowboys and probably more of an NFL conversation than a fantasy one, but they're at Pittsburgh, home to Detroit, a bye, then at San Francisco. Like 3 games that are very tough coming up here as well. And so, Lamb is matchup proof. I don't care about Joey Porter or whatever. Lamb is an automatic start no matter what. But important win for the Cowboys, and you feel a lot better about your first-round pick, CeeDee Lamb, after last night.
Yeah, you mentioned those next 3 games, Pittsburgh, Detroit, San Francisco. After that, at Atlanta, home Philly, home Houston. Like, it doesn't really get easier. Like, this could spiral. Micah Parsons has hurt his ankle, and we don't know about his availability going forward. So, football-wise, not amazing. Do you think it's a little bit concerning that, like, CD... That's not concerning, but it is a little bit of a dampener that he started off so well and then just kind of wasn't seen really in the second half. And also, past 3 games for CeeDee Lamb, 8 targets, 7 and 7. Like, we're not seeing those kind of 13, 15 target games that we were seeing last year. Assume some of that is just rust because he didn't have the full training camp, but would have liked, it seemed like he was going to explode for one of those CD games where it was 160 yards and 2 touchdowns.
I'll tell you what it is. It's time of possession. I mean, the defense is such a problem right now that they are hurting the Cowboys fantasy players.
Well, for sure. And by the way, it's also, again, we'll get into the running game here in a second, it's a one-dimensional offense. It's the thing we've talked about Dallas all along. Like, they don't, and it's one of the reasons why we like Jake Ferguson, by the way. My best bet yesterday was CeeDee Lamb over 82.5 receiving yards. It closed at 81.5. He ends up obviously cashing that. Connor, your best bet was Jake Ferguson over on the receiving yards. That also cashed last night. But honestly, that's it. It's Lamb and it's Ferguson. They don't have much. Like, so far we haven't seen a tremendous emergence from Brandon Cooks or Jalen Tolbert. The running game is a little bit of a mess as well. We'll get into that in terms of Dowdle over Zeke. But still, like, if you're a defensive coordinator, and by the way, Dak Prescott doesn't run anymore. So he's like a one-dimensional pocket passer, and you're just sort of like, okay, you heard CeeDee Lamb in the quote. He's like, it was the only time he saw single coverage all game. He's like, so if you're a defensive coordinator, you're like, I ain't worried about Dak taking off on us, and I ain't worried about the run game, really. I'm not worried about Rico Dowdle breaking off like a 40-yard big play. So if I bracket CeeDee Lamb, if I just put a bunch of guys around him, I'll give up 7 yards of reception to Jake Ferguson, whatever. You know what I mean? But, like, you're not worried about that. Again, the Giants had a chance to win last night and didn't, and, I would agree with you that I think you feel worse if you're a Cowboys fan after last night.
Dak yesterday, his average depth of target 5.5 yards. That is extremely shallow. So right now it's a team that can't run the ball and it's a team that's not getting really deep. I mean, the touchdown to CD was a comically blown coverage as well. I'm not sure that's particularly. It
was a good pass. Like, I mean, hit him in coverage.
And look, CeeDee Lamb will do that. That's how good he is. But yeah, it's not. You need that Cowboys offense to be explosive and all-world like it was last year to compensate for what right now seems like a below-average defense.
One thing we did see, Jay, is this backfield is shifting towards Rico Dowdle. It's something we've talked about all week. Less and less Ezekiel Elliott. Sure, Hunter Lupke, their fullback, somehow plays half the snaps, but this is Rico Dowdle's backfield now.
Yeah, definitely. And I think still with all the problems with the Cowboys offense, he's still the lead running back for the Dallas Cowboys, a team that was an elite offense last year and you suspect will get right at some point. I think it's a little bit of a concern, and I understand that it's health-based too, but like Tony Pollard looks so much better in Tennessee than he did in Dallas last year. So, look, I don't think you're not starting Ezekiel Elliott anywhere anymore for the time being, I think.
I'll go this far, right? 1,000%. If you're in a Yahoo league where you can cut bench players after they've already played, I have no issue dropping Ezekiel Elliott now and try to pick up a backup running back, somebody that might have value over after the weekend is over. But just because, you see the numbers there. Okay, fine. Rico Dowdle caught a touchdown pass, which I don't think is going to happen. But I thought it was worth noting that they had 1 goal to go rushing attempt, and they brought in Rico Dowdle. Rico Dowdle got that, not Zeke Elliott. Like, you would think if the one thing you can do with Zeke is at least he's close. He's going to be the one that falls in the end zone. Like, they didn't give him the goal line work, and half of his work came, sort of towards the end. And again, I wonder if, had this been a normal game, short week, obviously, you want to sort of protect your guys, and running backs tend to, on Thursday nights, get less work because they've just had a heavy workload on the Sunday before. If this game had been on a Sunday, I wonder if Dowdle is how they used to sort of ice the game at the end. At this moment, it feels like Ezekiel Elliott is an insurance back for Rico Dowdle, who's not great. He's an insurance back on a bad running team. You don't feel anyway. So I don't think there's a ton of upside there. I'd much rather have a Bucky Irving, a Ray Davis, a Braylon Allen. Pick any of these backup running backs that we think if they were to get the starting job.
I'd rather have Isaac Guerrero than Ezekiel Elliott at this point.
Yeah, 1,000%. I just shout out to Zeke. great fantasy career, but at the moment, unless you're in the deepest of leagues.
On the Giants side of things, the story continues to be Malik Nabers, targeted 15 times. He catches 12 of them for 112 yards before he had to leave the game because of a concussion. But after the game, the story really was everybody wondering if Daniel Jones can push the ball down the field in this offense and what's going on there. So take a listen to Jones after the loss.
Yeah, I don't know. I think just got to hit him and give a guy a chance to make a play. So I look at it, see where we can improve. I thought for the most part we moved the ball well in the pass game, and maybe we didn't hit a 30-yarder, but we hit 15, 20-yarders and moved it well. So we'll look at where I'll look at where I can improve on those down the field opportunities.
It seemed like on a few of those third downs, you were throwing the ball underneath and trusting Malik and Wan'Dale specifically to pick up the yardage after the catch there.
I think that's always part of our plan. I think, the way we a lot of those plays are designed to have options underneath that the coverage, dictates that's where the ball's supposed to go. And we trust our guys to, catch and run, and they've done that well.
Very Wall Street look for Daniel Jones, Jay. You can relate.
Yeah, very Gordon Gecko. Needed more Gordon Gecko type ruthlessness than Boston, to be honest.
Yeah. It was a little bit of like, what can I do to get you into this Acura today? It was a little bit of that luck too.
Some of that. Giants receiving leaders. Wan'Dale Robinson getting a ton of targets, Matthew. I mean, if you have
I'm so bitter about this. I'm so bitter about this. Do you understand how many years I hung on to Wan'Dale Robinson? Yeah. Like his rookie year, he's been drafted as a second rounder out of Kentucky. They're going to use him all these different ways. And then, now here comes Dayball. Dayball's going to use him. Year after year, go back and look. Wan'Dale Robinson is on my preseason love list. Others receiving votes for I think 3 straight seasons now, and I've finally bailed on him. And
that's how it goes.
Because I'm just it's done. And now he's Alvin Kamara reincarnated. He's a PPR cheat code as well. He's got a 28% target share this season. He's had at least 8 targets in 3 or 4 games. Right? It's the 3rd best fantasy game of his career, by the way. 11 for 71 on 14 targets. Again, they can't really run the ball either. Devin Singletary is sort of like whatever. Give credit to the Cowboys' run defense. They played better last night than they have previous this season. But again, Devin Singletary just seems to be running in mud a little bit. There's no explosiveness there. And so then again, when you think about, okay, you've got Malik Nabers, and Malik Nabers is obviously going to continue to draw a tremendous amount of coverage. That opens up the underneath stuff for Wan'Dale Robinson. So in PPR leagues, Wan'Dale Robinson, I think, is a legitimate, I'm very bitter about this, but a legitimate wide receiver 3. He's a PPR, he's a viable option in 3 leagues where you play 3 wide receivers in PPR scoring, full PPR scoring.
Now, if you're watching the show, our new bartender on the happy hour set, that's backup producer Pete.
Yes.
By the way. And you might be wondering, why is backup producer Pete also bartending on a Friday here at the happy hour? Backup producer Pete is a diehard Giants fan.
Diehard. You have no idea.
And our text chain last night, there was a war going on over Daniel Jones.
Yes.
So, Pete, this is a good time for you to just kind of let it out and speak for Giants pride.
What were your thoughts on the game last night as a diehard Giants fan? Let's start with Daniel Jones, Pete.
Okay. Well, first off, Matthew, thank you for having me on, and my 2 friends over there. So after dragging my name through the mud most of the week, I feel like it was just proper for me to maybe defend myself for a little bit. But someone I can't defend is Daniel Jones at this point. As Connor mentioned, we have a group text chain. Yesterday, last night, Daniel Jones was catching some flack. I came to his defense. Hey, he's having a good game so far. I came in today to tell everyone I was wrong.
Without even saying hello.
If you're a Daniel Jones backer or a certain owner of the Giants, your excuse has always been Daniel Jones has never had a even competent offensive line and weapons. And now he has both. I looked actually before I came on here, the receivers that have caught the most touchdowns from Daniel Jones, Darius Slayton, obviously, Sterling Shepard, and Golden Tate. So that tells you how bad his receiving core has been. But now he has Malik Nabers. He has Wan'Dale Robinson, who looked pretty good last night and who I didn't even want to draft ahead of Sky Moore. But that shows you how wrong I can be again. But the point is that when you have Daniel Jones, your offense is limited. He was not hitting on his deep balls. I think he's 2 for 14 on passes over 20 yards this season. And frankly, he had a free play to Darius Slayton that he underthrew. I don't know what happened because his rookie year, he was a good deep ball thrower, but I think he's just lost it over the years. And you cannot make it as an offense in today's NFL with these 15-play, 60-yard drives. And that's why Malik Nabers is on pace for about 220 targets this season. That's not sustainable. So for $40 million, that's not what you're paying for. And I hopefully look forward to Daniel Jones being not on the Giants next year, and I really just hope he doesn't take Brian Daboll down with him.
Pete, the good news is you're at a bar, so you can sit there as long as you like today.
Yeah, 1,000%. Hey, but you said you hope he doesn't take, like, you're pro Brian Daboll?
I'm pro Joe Schoen. I'm pro Brian Daboll. I think this organization has a history of being stuck in the past, and I think those are two guys who have kind of brought them into the present, except they've been stuck with the old school quarterback who just can't make it in today's game.
So I wave a magic wand and I make you the general manager. I give you powers of Joe Schoen. You're getting rid of Daniel Jones, but you're keeping everything else?
I would love to, yes.
All right, fair enough. Wow. Last thing here, backup producer Pete, before we let you go. 1,000%, this show, and specifically me, have dragged you through the mud, not just this past week, but honestly, since the show has been on the air for over 2.5 years.
My
over
kids
2.5 years, Pete.
Home. They're very sad.
So I am going to, we are nothing if not fair and balanced in our coverage, backup producer Pete. So I give you the floor to say whatever you want to me, about the show, whatever. Have at it. The floor is yours. Equal time, my friend.
What I will say is working on this show is one of the favorite parts of my week, and I do a lot of fun stuff here at NBC, but you guys are always fun to work with, even when Matthew is throwing to sound that does not exist and was never discussed at any point. But you guys are a good time. And thank you for having me on. And now I'm the bigger man, Matthew, and I can look down upon you. Not just literally from up here at the bar.
No, it's well done. Well done.
Back to producer Pete.
By the way, factually correct. Yeah. I'm a petty bastard. Pete is a gentleman and a scholar. And I don't know if you guys heard that, but if you read between the lines, where we talked about, this is one of the favorite things I do, shots fired at Sims. It feels like that is, because Chris Sims Unbuttoned. Sims Unbuttoned is one of the shows that Pete does here at NBC Sports. And Florio, too, because he also does some pro football talk. So I don't know. I felt like it was more directed at Sims than it was at Florio, but it does seem like backup producer Pete just that's what he's got to kind of grind through to get to the fun stuff
this
over
is the
here.
Reward.
Yeah, this is the reward. We're that's the broccoli, and we're the dessert. So
happy hour.
Just so you know, Chris Sims, Pete speaks only for himself, not for. We have no beef. The three of us, we have no beef with Chris Sims or the Sims Unbuttoned team.
I thought that was a great speech by Pete about Daniel Jones. It was like the antithesis of the Goodwill Hunting. It's not your fault. It's like, it is your fault. It is your fault, Matt Damon. By the way, that movie ends with Matt Damon getting in a car to California to see Minnie Driver. If anyone hasn't seen that. Came out in 1997.
Yeah,
so it's all pretty good.
What's the year rule on spoilers?
Well, longer than.
We really
27 years ago. That one's fair game.
No, we should start a weekly segment called Jay Ruins Movies.
Yes.
Jay spoils movies.
It's quite good. I think the surprise factor of it, though, is the best part. You don't know when he's going to do it, so you try to shut off your.
Anything in the 90s is fair game.
I think that's fair. I'll agree with that.
Fair enough. Goodwill Hunting is still a great movie.
Yes, very watchable.
That movie is not about the ending. I will say that.
Exactly
that movie's not about the ending.
I'll spoil the start later.
There you go. Yeah.
So we talked about briefly Malik Nabers earlier. He did leave this game with a concussion. The only update we've gotten from there is an Instagram post from Malik Nabers that said, "All good. Thanks for all the prayers." So rooting for the best for Malik Nabers throughout this, mini bye as the Giants play on Thursday Night Football. A little extra rest time for him. And with that, we'll take a look at the Week 4
injuries. By the way, I did not realize that his Instagram handle was @can't guard Malik.
No lies.
Which is something Michael Thomas was can't guard Mike.
Yeah, but
can't guard Mike.
It's hitting a little better these days with Malik Nabers.
By the way, it's accurate.
One of them is one Offensive Player of the Year, Connor, and it's not the Giants rookie.
Yeah,
well, he's going to win Offensive Rookie of the Year. So
he's certainly the favorite. By the way, third straight game with over 22 fantasy points from Malik Nabers. He's got a 46% target share of his past 3 games. That is not a typo. 46%. We'll keep track of that. But obviously, with 10 days until the Giants play the Seahawks in Seattle, hopefully there's time for Malik to get better and clear the concussion protocol.
The injuries we're tracking right now, Jordan Love's going to be a game-time decision with his knee injury against Minnesota. As for Joe Mixon with the ankle injury, it's not looking great. It could be another Cam Akers week. He had 9 of 11 of the running back carries. As for the rest of the Texans right now as well, Tank Dell most likely won't play. Nico Collins had a hamstring injury pop up late in the week right now. Keep an eye on this one. As we said, Tank Dell hasn't practiced, Joe Mixon hasn't practiced, Dameon Pierce hasn't practiced. I'm sure they're going to push Nico Collins.
Yeah, we'll get into the Texans here for a second. By the way, Mia O'Brien, who covers the Jaguars, she does a great job. She tweeted just before we went on air that Doug Peterson says Evan Engram doubtful to play. So we'll wait for the official injury designation later today on Friday, but doesn't feel like you can count on Evan Engram as well. It doesn't feel like any of the Eagles guys you can count on this week as well.
AJ Brown's still not practicing.
400 targets incoming for Dallas Goedert this game. And I feel it feels like Jordan Love is on track to play.
Yep.
But
they're calling a game time decision, but he's been practicing.
I think Jordan Love plays. To me, the biggest concern here is the Texans. So I don't think we're expecting Joe Mixon. We're not expecting Dameon Pierce. It's going to be another week of Cam Akers. Tank Dell, it also seems like he hasn't practiced at all. Doesn't feel like Tank Dell's going to play. But the weird one here is Nico Collins, Jay. We never like to see this, and I know this is something you guys track in the betting world as well. You never like to see somebody who was healthy on Wednesday and then pops up on the injury report on Thursday.
Yeah, definitely. You much prefer to see the Alvin Kamara route where he was with his hip and his back or something, but he practiced the next day. So it's like, all right, well, that's just kind of a vet rest type of day.
Yeah.
With Nico, that is a bad indicator that it is trending in that direction. Also, why was he out there when they were down 27 points at the end, getting targets in the end zone? That's
from
insane.
Davis Mills.
Yes. Well, what's the point? And now
you're pulling Stroud. You're pulling Stroud.
Yeah.
Nico. I'm not saying Nico Collins is as important as C.J. Stroud, but he's
close.
your alpha wide receiver.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's my
he's,
point.
He's close enough.
If you're like, hey, we're worried, we don't want a dumb injury to C.J. Stroud in a game that's lost. Why is Nico Collins out there? Why is anyone that that's important to you out there? And so. This is dumb.
Hamstring swell, you always worry about re-aggravation there, soft tissue injury.
Right.
The line has dropped from 7 to Texans minus 6.5 off of the Dell and Collins news too.
It is worth noting, though, Stephon Diggs is my wide receiver 15. Look, and he's averaging 8 targets a game. He's gotten 30% of Houston's red zone targets. And assuming that if Dell and Collins both miss, you'll see some Robert Woods, you'll see some Xavier Hutchinson, obviously. Dalton Schultz will be in the mix as well, but would feel like a big Stephon Diggs game in this one as well, especially given the fact that, he's getting a bunch of red zone work and only 2 teams are worse than 2 teams. Yes, 2 teams are worse than the Jacksonville Jaguars in terms of most passing yards per game given up this year as well. So it's a great matchup. If ever there was a game that Houston might feel like, hey, let's rest our stars, they're at home to the Jaguars. But yeah, wheels up for Stephon Diggs.
Yes, indeed.
Diggs up.
Yes.
Dig up.
It's impressive, Matthew, that you have stored in your head the passing against rankings that you could just kind of grab at any point.
Yeah,
good.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Every once in a while, I look at I do some research before the show. But you know what? I'm just going to go on a quick rant here.
Sure, unprovoked.
Yes. No, but we do, and also
go ahead.
No, our producer Damien, producer Damien and Big Show, who's our show researcher, the 2 of them, line us with research and stats and help us prepare. Shout out to them, because certainly for me, they make me sound smarter than I am. So I want to speak for just myself. But, it's interesting. I don't listen to a lot of other fantasy analysis. I listen to myself an hour a day. I don't need to do more. But on the drive in, I was listening to a couple of different shows that I'd been asked to check out, and so I'm listening to it. And these are shows that have an audience. I'll just leave it. I'm not going to try to specifically call one out. But one person was like, this is a question about Anthony Richardson and then they listed up a bunch of other quarterbacks, Justin Fields, Sam Darnold, whatever. And the analysis was I think I'd go with Sam Darnold because he's running hot right now. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me. No, nothing about the matchup, nothing about Darnold, nothing about Fields versus him, nothing about Richardson. Literally that was the analysis. I'd go with Darnold because he's running hot. He's been good. Seems like,
Like you're at the roulette table.
and right. Justin Jefferson. I'm like, good Lord. And then I listened to another show, and it was similar. It was similar type of analysis on a different question as well. And I was just like, I can't believe I'm saying this, but whatever the three of us are paid, it's not enough. At least we're doing some research over here. It was I could not believe this. And again, this is a small sample size, and I know there are people in our industry that do great work, and there are people out there that I really respect. And honestly, go see who I follow on social media. If you're curious, who I respect, the people I follow on social media are the people I respect. So that is if you care about that sort of thing. And there's a lot of people in our industry doing great work. So but I was just I couldn't believe it. Just two different shows that I've been said, oh, you should check this out. And that was, he's running hot.
I like running hot.
It drove me up a wall. It drove me up a wall.
Interesting road you veered down there, Matthew. But
it literally just happened on the ride in this morning, and just because you were we were talking about the
sure, you've got the passing stats.
Whatever. The three of us collectively, we do research, and we have a team that helps us out, obviously, in a significant way. And anyway, I don't know, opinions are opinion. I'm not going to ever kill somebody on some. I've gotten stuff wrong all the time. So do other people. Give me a reason.
Right.
Give me a reason why you like Darnold. I don't care if you're right or wrong about that analysis. Just tell me this is why I think this.
Yep. I will say before we move on to Diontae Johnson's groin.
Yes.
I will say that fantasy has become a very efficient industry, and it is very accurate and predictive of what is going to happen statistically. It powers betting markets
right
now, and the reason that is because there is a lot of great research out there, and there is a lot of time that goes into this. Now, not every show is going to be like that, but there is a lot of good content out there, and hopefully we're among that.
Yeah, and right, and there's a whole other conversation about people that are good at research and then people that are good on air, and they aren't always the same thing. And so there are people that, maybe they don't do a podcast, but they have a really good website, or they're really good on social media or whatever. Or they write, Anyway, so listen, at Fantasy Life, right? Fantasy Life, we have people on the Fantasy Life staff that are really good on air, and we have people that are really good at research, and so we try to put our people in the best position to succeed, right? And anyway, so whatever. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to go there, but I just it drove me because I care about our industry. I care about fantasy football, and I just do better. That's all I'm saying. Do better. That's all I'm asking. And again, there are many, many, many people out there that do great work.
Yeah. You could have came here on a Friday, just mailed it in, called it a week, but you saved your best for last. And I appreciate that.
I think this is because of the way I write, and because of the way I, the loose nature of this show and just how I am. I think most people are surprised when they realize I actually give a blank. You know what I mean? I genuinely do. Yeah. I care about my fantasy teams. I care about the show. I care about the content. I care about the fantasy industry as a whole. It is desperately important to me, and has been for many decades. You know what I mean? I'm a lot of things, but I'm passionate. I am absolutely passionate.
No, all right. I'm fired up now. I'm going to get in the car and drive to California and see a mini driver.
Exactly. There you go. Fair enough.
All right, well, nice transition to Diontae Johnson's
groin.
Yes. Jason, he didn't practice Thursday, which is concerning.
Also very concerning.
Very concerning.
Yes.
So for some of your fantasy teams as well.
Well, I have a lot of Diontae Johnson this week, and you hate to see it because they're getting Cincinnati. It's not a great defense, as we saw on Monday night. You've got the Bengals traveling to Carolina on a short week here, and so this felt like kind of wheels up for Diontae Johnson. I had Johnson as a top 10 play. We'll see what happens today, whether it was just kind of hey, let's take it easy. Right. But if they're without Diontae Johnson, they're already missing Adam Thielen. Somebody will step up. The question is who. I will rank Xavier Legette the highest of the Carolina pass-catching options, but you could see Jonathan Mingo. It goes from something Diontae Johnson's going to get a 30% target share in a great matchup to we'll see. You know what I mean? And Andy Dalton as a viable streamer suddenly becomes, less of a sure thing.
Another injury, Davante Adams potentially could miss this week. He's dealing with a hamstring, I believe, so we'll keep an eye on Davante Adams as well. Matthew, you talked about, just give us some data. Give us something. You know what kind of person brings the data to the table, runs the analytics?
Yeah.
Denny Carter.
Oh, yeah. Denny's really good.
Hit the Denny Carter music.
Yeah.
We're going to turn Travis Kelce's season around. Won't be easy to take 3 points. It's a 3-point plan. What is the first thing, though, that Mr. Travis Kelce could do to maybe save the 2024 season?
You know, Pat, the first thing that I would say to Travis Kelce and trying to right the ship is to maybe consider running one real pass route. And he's jogging and he's hoping to find a patch of grass that doesn't have a defender in it and then turn around and to catch a pass. But it turns out that you actually have to sometimes, Pat, run a pre-designed route and then turn around so that your quarterback can deliver the ball. And that's something that's not happening for Travis Kelce.
Hello, Denny. Happy Friday
Hey,
to
guys.
you.
Oh, Denny?
Hey, listen, we were tough on Travis, but fair, and we tried to lay out a plan for how he cannot be so terrible for our fantasy teams going forward.
For sure. I think the challenge there is that Travis Kelce has just kind of made stuff up his entire career, and it's obviously worked out. No, seriously, like he jokes about that. He's like, I just overlook it. I get to the line of scrimmage, I look at Patrick, and I'm like, I'm about to run, make some crazy stuff up. He uses a different word than stuff, and then it seems to always work out. But
they beat the Bills with 13 seconds left based on this invention.
Yeah.
1,000%.
It used to work well.
Anyway, Denny, you always do the research. We always enjoy the Galaxy Brain show that you do with Roto Pat, another guy who also does research here. I put a spine schedule with my unscheduled rant. So let's get right to it, Denny. What does the mainstream media not want us to know?
Yeah, look, I actually called MSNBC the other day, and they wouldn't take my call for whatever reason. But I was begging Rachel Maddow to please do a segment on Trey Tucker seeing 9 targets last week. Because, look, I wasn't going to bother Rachel, but with Davante Adams popping up on the injury list yesterday, limited in practice with a hamstring injury, I think Trey Tucker is a real play here. He's running a lot of routes in a very run-heavy Vegas offense. In fact, the Raiders, guys, 70% neutral pass rate leads the league because they can't run the ball, okay? Obviously, mainstream media is covering this up. I'm trying to tell you, I'm trying to convey this to the people, and I appreciate you guys giving me a platform to do that. But Trey Tucker could fall into another 7, 8, 9, maybe double-digit targets here in a game that I think will feature a lot of volume. You're not going to hear about him anywhere. That's why I'm trying to bring him up here.
Well, you know what? To your point about being productive when he's gotten out there, 79% catch rate this season. And by the way, to the point about the matchup, the Browns have allowed the 7th most yards on deep passes. Obviously, Trey Tucker very fast. They will take some shots to him, and they can't run the ball. I like the call with Trey Tucker, especially if we find out later today that Davante Adams once again misses practice.
Denny, it feels like the mainstream media constantly reminds us that Tutu Atwell is 150 pounds and was one of the craziest day 2 picks we've seen in a while. But when the Rams get hit with injuries, it feels like he produces.
Yeah, look, he was tied for the team lead in targets last week. Obviously, Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua, the mainstream media has been good on that front. They have told you that those guys are out, okay? So we have to give credit where credit is due. But 5 targets for Tutu last week, had a pretty good route share, second on the team in air yards. And while, like I've said on the show many times, you can't eat air yards, it is a good indication of how a player is being used. Again, don't try to feed your children air yards. I tried it, it's a disaster. But Tutu actually could be in play here, especially if the Rams have to play from behind a little bit. I like him a lot.
Okay, last one for you, Denny. Rachel Maddow actually texted me this morning begging me not to talk on air about Noah Fant, which is a really strange text message to receive from Rachel Maddow.
Yeah, you say, who is this?
Yeah, exactly. I was just trying to take my kid to school, getting these texts. Denny, what is
But you have discovered there is a conspiracy, there is a cover-up, Denny, and it starts with Noah Fant.
Look, and at NBC Sports, we're not going to cover this up. He caught 6 of 6 targets last week for 60 yards against the Dolphins. The route rate's not great, but we're going to ignore that for now. And by the way, this week, Lions, Seahawks, every time these two teams meet, it's a shootout, okay? And you can just look that up. You can do your own research on that and confirm that yourself. I think that Fant will be very much involved here. The Lions are a decent matchup for tight ends, and my Seahawks, are passing the ball as much as anybody in the league, including the aforementioned Raiders. So get Fant in your lineup if you are desperate at tight end. And who among us is not desperate at tight end?
I had the point total in that game, 46 for Lions Seahawks.
Listen, he had an 18% target share in week 3. That was tied for the second highest on the team. He's run at least 70% of the routes. He's had a 70% route participation in 2 of the 3 games this year. And yeah, it does feel like there's kind of this widespread conspiracy to keep Noah Fant out of the news. Like, it just feels like the mainstream media is just like, no, you keep, because with an election coming up. I believe both candidates want us to starve for tight ends, and so that then when they get into office, whoever ends up winning the election, they can say, "Oh, look at this new tight end."
No Fant's going to be decisive in Pennsylvania.
Yes.
Let me tell you right now.
This new tight end legislation that both candidates are touting. So yeah, they're covering it up as well, and not letting anyone know that there potentially is a viable tight end in Seattle. Good on
Matthew,
you, Denny, for bringing a light to this. Yeah, 1,000%. Good on you for shining a light on this underreported topic.
Denny, we always appreciate you bringing the truth. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Denny.
Thanks, guys.
All right. Follow Denny on social media at CeeDee Carter 13.
You can catch more Denny live every Friday at noon for his weekly Q&A on the NFL on NBC YouTube channel. Dominate this NFL season with a Fantasy Life Plus subscription. Get weekly rankings, start-sit advice, DFS analysis, and betting tools. Use promo code SEASON20 for 20% off. Go to fantasylife.com/rotoworld to learn more. Coming up after the break, we break down the highest scoring games of the week.
Shotgun snap to Daniels. Blitzes on. Throws an arching spiral pass into the end zone, and it was caught by McLaurin in the corner. Yes! Touchdown! In the back corner of the end zone. 27-yard touchdown. Knee was down. Ball was caught. 2:10 to play. Oh, what a catch.
My pants.
Oh, man.
All right,
looking
I'm
at our
good.
Week 4 highest scoring games going into the weekend, we had to start with something that would make Matthew happy. The Jaden Daniels, Terry McLaurin connection. And what do you know? The Commanders-Cardinals, some real high-end defenses. The point total is at 50. That leads the week. The Cardinals are favored by 3.5 points at home in this one. Matthew, was last week enough to restore your confidence in scary Terry McLaurin?
A little bit. Certainly this week, I like him. I'm at wide receiver 22. I like the fact that he had a 26% target share in week 3, a 24.7 average depth of target. They were finally taking some deep shots to Terry McLaurin. Obviously, you saw the touchdown there at the end of the game. They did an early one as well, I believe a 55-yarder. So that was nice. They've started to move him around. Cliff Kingsbury said, hearing the criticism of the first 2 weeks, we have to start moving McLaurin around. I will say, though, as much as I love Terry McLaurin, who is one of my favorite players in the NFL, somewhere up there in terms of, we have a number 17 jersey up there. Oh, all the way in the back corner, if you can see it there. We have a 17 McLaurin on the jersey wall. But he's not earning targets at a massive rate. And again, they want to be a little bit more certainly balanced. They like Brian Robinson. No Austin Eckler in this game, so maybe they do it. Maybe you can see it way back up there as well. But he's not somebody that's getting 14 targets or 12 targets or even he's getting 6 to 8. Now, there are going to be some deep passes, and you love the matchup against Arizona as no team gives up a higher catch rate to wide receivers than the Arizona Cardinals. Right? He had twice as many receiving yards last week as he did in the 2 weeks combined. So I think game script and sort of the game script in this game and the momentum from last week, I think you're starting him. Again, I'm at wide receiver 22, so low-end wide receiver 2, high-end wide receiver 3. But after a big game here, I might think about trying to sell high because I do think that this is a team ultimately that wants to win on the legs of Jaden Daniels and Brian Robinson and then take their shots setting up the run, Connor.
Yeah, I'm with you all the way. I mean, listen, this is an amazing play, an amazing touchdown, but we know what the Commanders want to do right now. And they were throwing to Austin Eckler a lot before he got hurt, as you mentioned, Matthew. So I don't even know where he ranks in the order of being a factor in this offense from a consistency basis, kind of that Matthew pointed out.
I think it's a little concerning that, and McLaurin's a more sophisticated receiver than this, but he's not really being used at it. There are like Will Fullerish aspects to how he's being utilized at the moment, where if he's not catching that 35-yard bomb, then do we have confidence that he's going to be able to compensate with, these 8-10-yard receptions? At the moment, probably not. Also, sneaky thing, like Arizona's defense, which I think everyone thought would be really bad going into the season, they've been not terrible. The past 2 weeks, particularly against the Lions, they only give up 20 points. They were great against Stafford and the Rams. They got lit up by Josh Allen, but right now that's the best offense in football to this point.
Through 3 weeks, they're 16th against the pass in terms of passing yards per game. Like, they're middle of the pack.
Yeah, they've been a middle of the pack defense going up against what should be 3. Well, the Rams are so banged up, but there's still Stafford at quarterback. But going up against the Lions, certainly, and the Bills, like that's a pretty good outcome.
They're peskier than you might think. The over-under, I think, opened at 51.5. It's down to 50. We still expect a high-scoring game here. But I agree with you. Like, just in terms of a number one wide receiver on a prolific offense, McLaurin just doesn't get the kind of targets that you see a CeeDee Lamb, a Malik Nabers, Diontae Johnson. Like, some of these guys are just massive target share guys. And so I do like him this week, like I said, but I might think about, if he has another big game, I might think about trying to see if he could sell high a little bit as well. Because, by the way, I said this in the preseason, Luke McCaffrey's going to be a thing. Yep. We saw it start to happen a little bit on Monday night. As he gets more comfortable in this offense, you're going to see Luke McCaffrey getting more and more targets as well.
He's kind of filling the role that we thought perhaps Diami Brown would fill more of, but Luke McCaffrey's been on the field more than expected.
Different wide receiver. I mean, they're using Diami Brown. Noah Brown, the former Texan and former Cowboy, has carved out a role on this team as well. I think they're using a lot of different guys, Zach Ertz, but just that's my only thing is that Terry McLaurin has a big name and is considered a wide receiver 1, but I think he's going to put up wide receiver 2-3 numbers. And given the buzz around Jaden Daniels in this offense, that you might be able to. I'm not looking to immediately get rid of him, but I'm just saying, like, I think you may want to think about selling high if he has a good game this week against Arizona, and I think he will.
Our next game, the Bengals are 4.5-point favorites traveling to play the Panthers. The point total in this one.
By the way, Trey McBride, just as before we move off that game real quickly, Trey McBride wasn't on our injury thing, but he's also been a little bit banged up as well.
He's in concussion protocol.
Yes, he is in the concussion protocol. Yes. So just something to keep in mind. If Trey McBride were to miss, maybe the human Dortch, Greg Dortch, gets a little bit more love in the middle of the field from my ride or die, Kyler Murray.
The point total for Bengals-Panthers is 47, Jay. And when you look deeper into this game, the good news is T. Higgins is back, but it was a quiet return. What can we expect from him going forward?
So DraftKings has his receiving prop set at 52.5 yards. I think that's about the right ballpark where he's not going to be fully back to being T. Higgins. He looked fine physically, I thought, on Monday night against the Commanders, but he's probably not fully ramped up all the way. Suspect that this is still going to be a Jamar Chase game. Above all, Matthew's got him as number one wide receiver this week. I was surprised to see that on DraftKings he's only set at 73.5 receiving yards. That seems a little bit low for Jamar Chase. Think back to the explosives that the Panthers have given up this year, particularly back in week 1 to the Saints. So I'd be taking the over on Jamar Chase at 73.5.
Yeah, that's just too low for,
I think
Jamar Chase.
He was set 8 yards higher against the Commanders, and he went comfortably over.
Yeah.
So Jamar Chase is someone who should just be set in the high 70s minimum every week, I think.
Yeah, so I'm of two minds on T. Higgins here. A little bit same with. So here's the positives of T. Higgins, right? The Bengals had 4 end zone targets last week against my Commanders. Higgins got 2 of them, right? And he had 30% of the team's red zone targets. Played 90% of the snaps last week in his debut. Almost a 16% target share, the second highest on the team. So all those are positives. Plus, by the way, we know T. Higgins is good. Here's the concern, though. He just hasn't had a massive target share, right? Since week 3 of last season, Higgins has only 1 game above a 20% target share. So you're looking at a guy that's just sort of always in that 15%, 16% range. Just I think they're using Gesicki and Eric All a little bit more. Andre Yoshevich has given them some good snaps as well. And so, I just feels like, I guess, assuming health for Jamar Chase just feels like the ceiling on T. Higgins is capped, that he's much more of a just rock solid kind of in that wide receiver 2-3 range. I am at wide receiver 23 this week. If there's something to hang your hat on, obviously, to your point about the Carolina secondary, Jay, the Panthers have allowed 5 receiving touchdowns to wide receivers through 3 games. That is tied for the 3rd most. So given the fact that he got a couple end zone targets last week, think there's a decent chance Higgins gets in the end zone in this one.
Yeah. The best thing that all of these Bengals have going for them, fantasy-wise, is the defense is terrible.
Yeah.
Like, I think it's just unsalvageable at this point with the talent there, what they've shown through 3 weeks, outside of just bizarrely always being able to get in Patrick Mahomes' head, no matter the year seemingly. But the fact is, it seems like they're just going to be in these shootouts over and over again, and they're going to compile a lot of stats.
Yeah.
Our final game here, the Bills, the undefeated Bills, are underdogs against the Ravens.
We talked about this a little bit, I think, on Wednesday. That's a bizarre line to me, Jay.
Yeah, I think the thing is that it's an extra day of rest for the Ravens, which does matter. The Bills are traveling on the shorter week. That matters, and that's probably worth perhaps half a point or so. And then the other thing, too, is that like the Ravens, they were so far and away the best team last year in the regular season. That is still being baked in. So if you think that team is gone, that this Ravens team without Mike McDonald, without some elements of that defense is just new, then this line would be wrong. Also, the Bills, in terms of what they've done so far, like they've lit up some bad defenses. Josh Allen is doing a lot with Yak so far, which is perhaps less sustainable. But I agree. Certainly on face value, you wouldn't think that, because this line is saying the Ravens are just flat out better than the Bills on neutral. I'm not sure that I'm quite there yet.
Yeah.
Point total's at 46.5. Matthew, can James Cook stay hot against a Ravens defense that is the best against the run so far, a couple weeks into the NFL season?
I think he could, just because he's now getting goal line touches, right? That's the thing. Last year, if you'd asked me that question against this same Ravens defense, just to give you some good Ravens stats, by the way, they're running hot. The Ravens run defense is running hot, but they also have the number 1 ranked rush defense so far this year. They're giving up just 50 yards per game. They allow 2.6 yards per carry to opposing running backs. They've allowed the 5th fewest fantasy points to opposing running backs. Now, I mean, like, some of it is, great, you stop Zamir White. Like, everyone stops Zamir White. But, they played Pacheco in week 1. So, I mean, it's been a mixture of, some good, some bad, obviously, and then the not Jacksonville, because they played the Bills last week. But, they whatever. And the Cowboys can't really run, right? So they stopped Dowdle and Zeke. So whatever. They stopped Pacheco to an extent. But I think what helps you here with James Cook, right? He already has 5 goal line rushes this year. That was half of his total all of last year. Like, they're using him when they get in closer. He's got 4 touchdowns in 3 games. 1 of them was a pass, but 3 of them were running scores as well. He's also got a 12.5% target share on this team. It's 3rd in the team as well. So, I mean, it's like, it's Kincaid, it's Khalil Shakir, and then it's James Cook. So I think the passing game usage, the fact that if they get in close, they're likely going to give him a shot or 2 into the end zone. I'm at running back 10. I think just his usage, and we expect points to be scored in this game. The over-under is 46.5. I think you can still trust James Cook. The Ravens defense is good. I don't know that it's as good run defense as maybe the stats suggest.
Yep, no, I agree with that. Cook, his scrimmage yards are set 76.5 on DraftKings, plus 135 to get in the end zone, so a bit north of, once you take the margin out, probably about a 40% chance to get in the end zone. So I think he's going to be a very stable source of production, because just those receptions, they just give him an added higher floor. Yeah. And this team it has now become a team that is somewhat built around the run.
Sunday night, it's a matchup between 2 of the league's top playmakers. Josh Allen leads the Bills against Lamar Jackson and the Ravens. Sunday, 7 Eastern on NBC.
Do you think Tirico or Collinsworth will mention that Josh Allen is a proud Fantasy Life investor on the game?
You should have somebody pass that message to them and see if we can get it through.
I'm gonna text somebody.
You got a chance.
Let me see.
There's a non-zero. That's all that matters.
I think there's a 0 chance.
All right.
To be perfectly honest.
We're taking one more break.
I'd agree with that.
When we're back, it's last call. It's time to try to pick up Matthew with our best bets for the weekend.
Yeah. Who's taking me home?
DraftKings Sportsbook is the #1 place to bet touchdowns, and new customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets instantly. Download the app and use promo code Barry when you sign up. DraftKings Sportsbook, the crown is yours. That's a crew that's ready for the weekend. How about last call?
Oh, yeah.
Let's take a look at the Week 4 biggest spreads right now. Some surprises here, some not so surprises here. But as we always do on Friday, Jay and I bring our absolute best. Matthew can only pick one. Yeah. So Jay,
pickup lines.
What do you got?
I'm sitting here in the bar,
pickup lines,
like the prettiest girl in the bar, and you guys got to try to pick me up. Who's bringing me home?
Right.
Who gets to bring this back to their abode?
Great explanation of the segment.
Yes.
For the 800th time, or the 147th time, Sal Michaels said on the broadcast last night about how many flags there were. Okay, the market has lost its effing mind on the New Orleans Saints. How are the Saints 2.5-point dogs in Atlanta?
Yeah.
So here's the thing. We can all agree that the Saints have a better defense than Atlanta. The Saints were the 5th-ranked defense last year. Falcons were 12th. This year, the Saints' defense has been much better than the Falcons. So we can agree on that. I also think the Saints have a better offense than the Falcons, given that they had a stretch in the season where they scored on 15 straight drives. Wasn't as great against Philadelphia, but this Falcons offense has been stuck in the mud for stretches as well. Falcons dealing with injuries on their offensive line. They're going to miss their starting center. Caleb McGarry's not looking great either. Saints have some injuries too. But so Saints have a clearly better defense. I think they have a better offense. So why are they a worse team than Atlanta? And so I get that the game is in Atlanta, which is worth 1.5 to 2 points. But like, how are the Saints 2.5-point dogs? Like, the market's just all over the place on this team. They were 6.5-point dogs in Dallas, then they're 3-point favorites home to Philadelphia. Now they're 2.5-point dogs in Atlanta. Makes no sense whatsoever. So I believe in the Saints. I think they're a very solid team, and I think that they are at worst the same quality as Atlanta, and I think probably slightly better. So give me the Saints plus 2.5.
Saints pickup lines.
I like that though. I mean, we talked about this on Wednesday actually. Just there's a bunch of weird lines to me. Like I said, like the Bill that's one of the lines that jumped out to me. Vikings getting points, exactly. The Bills getting points to the Ravens. Honestly, the Commanders getting points at Arizona. The 2-1 Commanders.
I'm more okay with that one.
Whatever. Anyway, what's your?
Well, I think a lot of people know by now the Matthew Berry Bowl is this week.
Oh yeah.
The Commanders are traveling to the Cardinals. So you might be asking, why is that the Matthew Berry Bowl? Well, it's his team, the Commanders, against his ride or die Kyler Murray. Yeah. So I cooked up for the highest point total of the week, by the way, 50 points, as we did last segment. I cooked up the ride or die parlay.
Oh boy.
Low bar here. Low bar here. That's all Kyler Murray has to do against the Commanders secondary right now. He needs to throw for 2+ touchdowns.
Yep.
And then he needs to run for 25+ rushing yards. That'll get you minus 105 at DraftKings. The ride or die parlay.
I like that a lot. And boy, you know what I mean? It doesn't feel like Connor is playing fair here by going
to the heartstrings.
But you know what? Believe it or not, I'm going home with Jay. I'm going home with Jay.
Who dat?
I think that line is crazy as well. I don't understand that as well. The Murray line, I think, but you know what? Like, could he run for a touchdown? I don't know about the 2. Who knows? Maybe my Commanders. Maybe they command up. Maybe they command up. I don't know. I hope Kyler Murray has a monster fantasy day and a 1-point loss to my Commanders. I like both bets. I'm going to make both bets, but I'm going home with Jay. Lucky you, Jay.
Who dat?
Yeah, who dat? It's a crazy, it's a crazy line.
Keep pounding.
Closing time. You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. For Jay Croucher, Denny Carter, and Connor Rogers, I'm Matthew Berry. We'll see you Sunday morning. Peace out. Hey, it's Matthew Berry from NBCSports.com and RotorWorld.com, and I want to thank you so much for watching whatever it is you just watched, or if nothing else, being too lazy to click out of the autoplay after this video started, after whatever it is you actually wanted to watch finished. But now that you're here, I'd like to take a moment here to ask you respectfully now, okay? I'm asking you respectfully to subscribe to the NFL on NBC YouTube channel. You'll get the latest Roto-World fantasy news headlines, all sorts of great shows, including my own Fantasy Football Happy Hour. So go subscribe now. Again, I'm asking respectfully.